Hey guys, welcome to this video. So in this one, we're going to show you how you can actually get the leg up on your competition, or at least compete with the big dogs by knowing your numbers, and everything else just falls into place logistically. There's been so many times that I've met with business owners and they don't know their numbers. They don't know how much it costs for them to get a client. And if they do, it's such a high number because they're spread so thin and they don't have the numbers to track and to keep things in KPI, which is key point indicator. So without further ado, let's dive into it. In this video, first off, we're going to find your budget. And so we don't know where you need to go until you know your numbers and how to get there. And it has to make sense. So this is going to be how to make it make sense. We're then going to go over how ads actually work. I'm going to show you the KPIs and things that need to line up in order to make it work. Time and time, you'll always hear the cost of ads are going up. It's not going to work. Now, this is how you make it work on the second section. And then once we have all of that, we're going to flip everything on its head and we're going to plug in your budget, and you're going to figure out how to make your ads specifically kill it in this game. All right. So without further ado, let's hop into this first one here, which is going to be finding your budget. Okay. So to find your budget first, we want to figure out what your lifetime value is. Now, there's tons of different types of businesses that we work with, everything from pool maintenance, gyms, chiropractors, other consultant agencies just like us. And if you're wondering, why do you help those people? Aren't they you? Well, I don't see the world that way. And I think everyone should have a fair shot at stuff. But also, too, I don't want people going out there and sabotaging small businesses by thinking they know what they're doing, too. So that being said, sad story, but we're going to figure out your lifetime value. This also goes with like high ticket, which is like roofers as well that we worked with too. So if you're selling a $10,000 product, $200 a month product, whatever it is, this is how you find your lifetime value. So first off, we're going to look at a small business that's charging, let's say $200 a month on a service. Now, let's say home service business, we work with tons of them. Let's say it's a gym, charge $200 a month for access to the studio, unlimited access, whatever it is. Okay. Now, on average, let's say that client stays with you for 10 months. First off, if they're staying with you for 10 months, that's a whole nother video. So just for numbers sake, I'm going to say 20 months because typically, if you're good at what you do, hopefully you're watching this video so you know how to take it to the next level. And this is, you don't have a retention issue at all with your business, and I can actually deliver on what you say you're going to do. So let's say in this example, you stay with the gym for 20 months, or if you're a pool maintenance company, they're staying with you for 20 months. If you're pest control, they stay with you for 2 years, whatever it is. I'm going to say a little bit shy of 2 years and say 20 months. So now what we do is we take that $200 a month plus, we're going to times it by that 20 months. So we know that that's going to give us about 4K in lifetime value, and that is going to be the lifetime value of the client. This does not include any upsells that you have, any one-time packages. So if you're pool maintenance and you're doing filter cleaning every quarter for $100, $200 extra, if you're a gym and you're doing one-time consulting, or you're doing fitness challenges, upsells, events, stuff like that, this isn't accounted in there. So you'll have to figure that out just by dividing it out. So now we know what our lifetime value is. In this example, it's $4,000 a month. And with that, ideally in a perfect world, we want to get anywhere between a 10x return on the money that we bring in, or excuse me, the money that we spend. Anywhere between 7 and 10 is a healthy spot. Obviously, that can range all the way up to 20x. We have ours about 14x. Anytime we put a dollar in, we average out about $14. And then as long as your minimum is no less than 3x, then you can make this work. So, and that should be 3x specifically for profit. If we're talking revenue like this, that should be anywhere like 7 to 10x. All right. So in this example here, we're going to say that this is a $4,000 lifetime value. And we know that we can spend about $400 to acquire a client. Now, if you're, let's say, gym, if you're a fitness studio, med spa, whatever it is, this might make sense. And for some people it does, but it can be significantly less than that still. And I'm going to show you how on the next steps. So keep in mind that some people buy routes, some people will buy businesses or buy out gyms, and they'll buy out the member count associated with it times whatever the value of that's worth over the course of a year. So when I say this, I say like people will buy routes at $1,000, $2,000. I just talked to someone that bought a route at $2,080 per person. I've had gyms where they bought memberships at $2,000 a person too. So keep in mind that this $400 is going to be the budget, right, that you want in order to go out there and acquire a new client. And there's a quote, if you haven't heard it, where it's whoever spends the most to acquire a client wins. But also, too, you want to keep your lifetime value here healthy because you're really going to win on the back end if you have a solid lifetime value. Now we know what our budget is. We're going to go to the next part here, which is going to be knowing how the ads actually work. And then we're going to put everything into fruition. All right, so we know now that our lifetime value of a client is going to be $4,000 in that example. Okay, and that's going to give us a budget of $400 to spend. Okay, now before we go a little bit deeper into this, we know that the fastest way that you can acquire a client is through paid media. We can do things like organic. You can get referrals, which are awesome, and you should 100% get referrals. You should also be 100% closing them because you're not doing any of the selling. The person that sent them to you is actually closing them. So as you go to the paid media space, your closing percentage, take it, cut it in half. And that's going to be the best that it's going to be. If you're closing 80% of people coming through, cut that in half to 40%. You're going to push it and get 40% closes if you're the owner doing it. There's a thing, owner's magic, and you can put your top salesmen in place and they're not going to close as good as you. It's not their business. So with that being said, I'm going to show you how to make this make sense. So we know that the flow going into the online market space is you put out an ad and you kind of pray for them to come and pay you, right? That's typically the flow that people think how ads work. But really what it is you're going to put an ad out there and they're going to go to the next step, and that's where they're going to submit their information through some type of a form. That might be a website, it might be a form like on one of the platforms, and then they'll submit their information, it goes to you, and then you make money and you're happy, right? So pretty straightforward process. And how we know to make this work every single time without fail, regardless if the cost of advertising goes up or not, which it always is going to. So it's better to, plant your tree now than it is, 20 years ago, because you can't do that, is we need to know what happens here, the metrics, what happens here, the metrics, and so on and so forth at each one of these steps in order to make it happen. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into that here. And we're going to look at your sales funnel. So this is going to be your sales funnel. And we know that when we go and we want to run advertisements, they typically are going to charge on what's called an impression basis. Now, what I'll give you a golden nugget here. What we've found works best is pushing stuff on Meta. It doesn't matter if your home service business, if your leisure product or service like, escape room, whatever it is, we actually take people off of Google and put them onto Meta because that's a way for us to force performance. Now, Google is great if you're running there and finding success. I'm not saying at all to cut it, but what I am saying is when it is time, you'll want to diversify into Facebook because that's how you can make these numbers make sense and force performance. So these types of platforms, think of social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Meta is Facebook and Instagram. Think of like TikTok, right? All of these places charge for eyeballs essentially, right? To get eyes onto your brand. And what you want to do is put them into your sales funnel. This might be beginner notes for you guys, but I'm going to show you the KPIs and everything you need. So first off here, is going to be your impressions. Now, when you go and you want to get people to look at your ads and start submitting information, they're typically going to show you or show your ad to 1,000 people at a time, and they're going to charge you a premium for that. So typically that's going to be anywhere between 20, $30 in this example. Let's say that you're going to get 1,000 eyes or impressions at $25 per thousand. Okay. And this is what's called CPM. If you've ever seen that acronym, this is it. If not, don't worry about it. No one pays attention to CPM. But if you could lower your CPM, this is how it's going to help out the rest of your sales pipeline. Okay. Now, let's say that we don't want to just spend $25, right? Obviously, that's not how business works. Let's say we want to spend $100 in this case. So we're going to put $100 into the pipeline here. All right. So we know that now we're going to get in front of 4,000 people. So I'm just going to put here 4,000 people at $25. And that is how we're going to get eyes onto our ads. Now, the next part here is what's called the click-through rate. So this is how many people click onto your ads and they're transported over to this next step here. All right. Now, typically that's going to be anywhere between 1% and 2%, and that's going to be your KPI, right? Let's just say it's totally bad and you only get, 1% of all those people that come through. So that would leave you with roughly about 40 visits, 40 page visits or 40 clicks. All right. So now we have our clicks, and as people come through to our opt-in page or our squeeze page or our lead form, whatever that is, then you would expect for that to convert no less than 10%. All right. So that's going to go anywhere 10 to 20%, really. There's a ton of different factors that are dependent or contingent upon that. So let's just say it's 10% in this example here. And this is what's called your conversion percentage. So conversions. All right. So in that case, you would get about 4 leads from that. Now, the lower your the lower percentage your conversion is on that page, you would expect the quality to be higher. And the only way that it's going to drop lower than that is if you have a lot of pre-vetting questions. Another golden nugget here is you ideally want to keep questions or survey people between 3 and 5 questions. We talk about this in another one of my videos on what to do on this page and how to optimize it. So if you haven't watched that video, I'll link it in the description below. And so with that, you get 4 leads. And we know now that your conversion is of those 4 leads. Let's say your closing percentage is 25%. All right. Of these highly vetted leads. Now, there's a lot of variables here when it comes to closing percentage. It can range as low as 15% if you don't know what you're doing, if you're new to the game, if you don't have all the follow-ups in place. I even made a video on this and how to get this up because there are steps in between this, and we can break this down indefinitely, right? So I've had people close as high as 40% of these people that come through. So let's just say you're losing 75% of the time. All you need is one person and one close. So now we know that we spent, in this case, $100 to get one close, and that is going to result in our lifetime value back up at the top. I don't know why I did that backwards, of 4K. So now we just spent $100 to get a $4,000 deal, and we went down $100, right? And that leaves us net positive after our customer acquisition cost of 3.9K or $3,900. And that is how your competition, that is how we do it, that is how our clients do it, and this is how you can force your performance. Now, we need to figure out what the goal actually is. So, are we trying to get obviously more clients, but how many more clients do we need? We just multiply this. In this example, let's say that we want to get 10 new clients. That would then bring us $40,000 worth in lifetime value, right? And all we do is we just add a zero in that. So this is how much it costs to get one example. If we want to get 10 clients, we know that we would need to spend $1,000. We know that we would get 40,000 impressions. We would get 400 clicks. We would get 40 conversions. And if we close 25% of them, we would get 10 clients, right? We're just adding a zero to that. And then we're adding $40,000 to our lifetime, and we're down the hole $1,000. And now this is how you do it every single time without fail. This is our step number 3, is actually figuring out how to make our numbers work. One thing I failed to mention on that last part here was all of those levers that I just showed you. If you change any of those by a fraction of a percentage, even 1.5%, we said that the click-through rate on that was 1%. So let's say that you did 1.5%, right? So that would mean you'd have 4,000 impressions. That means that you would have a click-through rate of 1.5% CTR. So that click-through rate we talked about, which then means that you would have people go through to your page, and then you close, so 60 clicks, and then 10% of those people sign up, and that's essentially 6 leads or prospects, and you close, let's say 25% of those, then that means that you're going to close 1.5 new clients. Now you're wondering, oh, how do I close 1.5 clients? Obviously that's an average, right? So if in that example, again, you spend $1,000, then that means that you get, just for example here, you could see you get 40,000 impressions, you get 1.5 click-through rate, you get 600 clicks, you get 60 leads, and you get, this moves over, so you would get 15 clients instead of 10. And that is by changing your click-through rate by 0.5%, by 5 new clients. Those 5 clients is going to generate $4,000 a pop, which is $20,000. Those 5 new clients from 0.5% click-through rate is going to generate 5 clients at 4K lifetime value. which equals 20K lifetime value. I'll barely squeeze it in there. So hopefully that gives you an idea. The small, minute levers that you can pull and make a huge impact. We didn't talk anything more about closing percentage or the CPMs going down or the conversions going up. This is just from a click-through rate saying that you have an engaging ad. So just another quick example here. If I clear this out and now we know that we want to get, let's say we want to get 50 clients, right? And we know that it now costs us $100 to get a client, right? So 50 clients is the goal, and it costs $100 to get a client. All right. So now we know that it costs us 5K to get a client. Now, I will say I've spent tens of thousands of dollars a month. I spent a couple $100 a month too on for us, for our clients. And so typically what I see is the sweet spot is about $100 a day. So if we do that, you would want to consider how fast and how stressful is it going to be on my business if I were to just dump 50 clients on my team within a month, within 2 weeks, right? So you want to make sure you're spreading this out properly to where it's not going to hurt you and your team and then ruin your reputation because no one wants that. And again, the reason I'm showing all of this is because most of the people I show aren't going to do anything with this, but the people that it's worked to, they'll figure it out and they'll either do it or obviously if they need our help, that's what we're here for. But that's not the point of this video. It doesn't change my life if you take this or not. So $5,000 is what it would cost to get 50 clients. All right. And then we know that those 50 clients at $4,000 pop, just so I'm not messing this up, is going to be worth 200K. Let's see. So that's going to be worth 200K lifetime value. This is how we find our budget. This is how we find our value. And that is how you make it work. So without further ado, go out there, actually do something with this, whether if you're looking at working with us, this is how it's done. If you're looking at doing it yourself, that's how you do it. Go check out the other videos. You could figure it out how to do it. We have some videos as well on how to really increase the appointment showing, the closing percentage, the qualification of people too. We take care of all of that. So if you're interested, we do a full build and release model. So that way people don't have to work with agencies anymore. And our selfish goal at the end of it is obviously you have a different business because 50 clients is a decent amount for any business to where it makes more sense to have someone just take over it that knows what they're doing versus having a random little kid do it or whatever it is, or someone really old or someone my age do it that doesn't know what they're doing. So that being said, go do something, go sell something, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello from the future. Totally spaced on that in this end. I'm not asking you to believe me, but I just want to show you what it is. So people are actually doing it. That being said, let's check it out. So I don't know about you, but I don't like to dox my clients, so that's why it's blurred out. But just to show you, I want to show you a specific metric here. So this CPM here, and it goes on for 121 campaigns. Obviously, we spend a lot of money, right? And just to show you, like, we're spending 13K, 20K, etc. Right? So under this amount spent here. And on average, you can see these CPM costs. So the cost to get in front of 1,000 people, it's about $15, $10, $20, whatever it is, right? So now this is for medium and lower ticket. I want to show you what an example looks like on higher ticket. Okay, so this is another one of my clients that I've been working with. Actually, if you want to see just the whole entire first week of what it looks like to run, I'll attach the video too here. You can click on that and check it out if you want. But anyways, this is going to be a quick skim. So just to show you, he spent close to 10K, a little bit over 10K actually. So like 11K. And then that being spent, and you might say, oh, well, that's a lot. Yeah, well, you're making a lot on the back end if you're doing high ticket. That's why it's called high ticket. And you might say, oh, well, that's spending a lot of money to get those people. Welcome to business, right? That's the way it works. You're getting, in this example, a 4x return on money. So, and that's only closing 1%. Okay. Given it's high ticket, you're probably closer to like 10, 20% of people that come through. Your medium lower ticket, talking like 20 to 30% roughly. And then if you really have your systems dialed in, then that's where you can start to get, like 40, 50% closes on medium lower ticket. That's like home service-based businesses, consulting. But if you're doing like coaching, if you're doing actual B2B stuff, I mean, this is great. And obviously there's people in the pipeline. This is also just the cash collected on the front end. So this doesn't necessarily mean the people that are sticking on afterwards, upsells, cross sells, downsells, etc. So I always like to look at the worst case scenario, and worst case scenario right here is making 44.9K or 45K off of about 11,000 spent. And if you're saying, oh, that's a fourth, well, That's doing business. Except while some people might be complaining about it, if you're getting this concept, you can scale off of that. So now you just use that money to go buy another client and you still have margin left after that. Anyways, hopefully this helped. Check out the next video or don't really matter to me, but hopefully you found this valuable. See ya.